Thank you for joining us today for the Examination Certification Online System training presentation. We call it ECOS. ECOS is a result of the Civil Service Improvement Mandate initiated by Governor Brown to make access into state government easier for applicants and more efficient for the departments to manage. There are multiple modules within ECOS. We have released the first two. Module 1 was the job control. The job control is what we build to put your job announcement on the vacancy website with CalHR. In the past, job announcements were just a simple, dumb form. You told us what you wanted to put in your ad, we put it up, applicants read it, and applied for your position. A job control builds in intelligence. We tell a job control what you must have the applicant submit versus what they can submit permissively. And it also routes the job control. It tells all the electronic applications how we want them processed through the department. So they're much more intelligent. They have a lot more information preloaded into them before your announcement ever hits the web. The second module is electronic applications. So we have historically accepted hard copy applications for all vacant positions. Through ECOS, our applicants are now given an option of mailing in a hard copy or, what we're finding to be much more popular, submit an online electronic application through your MyCalCareer profile. In the future, we're going to roll out the remaining modules, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the presentation. The remaining 3 modules, which we released over the summer, is our anticipation. Those will allow additional communication as you go through your selection process, and those communications will occur through the system. So let's talk about roles. We all have different roles in ECOS. I want to assure you that the role of human resources is to provide you training, tools, and resources. Our primary responsibility in human resources is to ensure the department adheres to all the merit-based recruitment and selection requirements for employment in the great state of California. We have a role for our HR liaisons in division. Right now they assist in processing the hard copy applications that continue to arrive. And then over time, as we need more assistance in pushing out the other modules of ECOS through the division, we're going to rely on our HR liaisons to help in that mission. The hiring supervisor designee has always been responsible for supporting and maintaining merit-based recruitment and selection processes. That has not changed with ECOS. All those rules stay the same. I do encourage you, if you have not yet attended the Human Resources University, or HRU, class on merit-based recruitment and selection, that you look for that class and attend it. It's very helpful in understanding why we do the things we do as hiring supervisors and HR. Anyone who has access to ECOS, like any other secure system, has to read a security guideline package and sign an access form saying that they understand the requirements of access to ECOS. ECOS has a lot of information in it about a lot of applicants, and it's very important that people who access ECOS understand they can't share their passwords, they can't share the data, they don't circulate applications to non-involved parties. So how do we start electronic applications? You're all very familiar with the PS-222 process, a request for personnel action. In the past, on the right-hand side for recruit, typically we've either seen hiring supervisors' names there or we've seen HR liaisons' names there, because that was the name that was put on the job announcement as the contact. We're doing things a little differently now. So what we'd like to see in the recruit is the name of the manager or the manager's designee who is going to have access into ECOS and screen those applications. If you want a different name on your job announcement, the one that people will call saying, can I have a copy of the duty statement? Did you close this? Have you seen my app? Then just put it in the remarks. This is who we want to be on the job announcement as our division contact. So let's talk about the steps with ECOS. So step 1, ECOS access is restricted to those with a business role in reviewing applications. A manager's designee is expected to remain constant. We don't expect to ultimately have everyone in the department in ECOS. It is a restricted system for hiring supervisors. We do understand that there are going to be times when a supervisor has a recruitment going and they're on vacation, or they become ill, or the volume of applications is so high you need someone to assist you in screening them. Let us know and we'll add a designee to that job control for you. In a perfect world, your designee will also be a supervisor. We understand on occasion that can't happen, and then we'll work with you if you need a non-supervisor to have access to ECOS. Why do we care? Let's not forget that merit-based recruitment and selection is a manager's job. It is not a represented employee's job. So we just try to keep our roles clear. But again, if you have a need, talk to Julie Love or myself, and we'll help you with that. Security awareness. Before we'll allow access into ECOS, you have to read. It's a very brief 4-page form talking about how you're going to access the system and how you're going to treat the data, and sign the access form. When you sign that access form, you're going to send it to the Exam and Certifications unit for processing. When that happens, we're going to take that access form and go into ECOS as the system administrators and tell ECOS we want to go and handshake with Janine. Here's a new ECOS user, and you'll get this first email. And the first email just says, you're being prompted to complete this online form. Once you complete the online form, the system will prompt the administrator that you're ready. You'll get a second email with some instructions about your user ID and password. And then you'll get a third email saying, congratulations, you're in, and here's the access link to get in and look at your job controls. The link is pretty easy to remember. It's a secure database, so the initial address is HTTPS for secure, and then it's ecos.ca.gov. Pretty simple. We do understand that some supervisors might hire today and then not hire again for a year, and they're going to forget, what was that portal? What was my user ID? So we're creating a toolkit that will have this link in it. And if for some reason you cannot remember your user ID or password, you can contact the system administrator and we will reset it for you. So what kind of access are you going to receive as a designated ECOS user? You're going to get to see what we call the job control view. And that's a very high level, just so you can look and say, yes, this is a job control I want to work on. Here's the job control number. Here's the classification number. Here's the classification title. This is correct. The next view you're going to get is a job posting view. And you're also going to see a job application view and then get to see what each applicant uploaded. And we're going to take a look at all those screenshots. So how difficult is it to use ECOS? Module 1 and 2 are simple. The first thing you're going to do is click on that link and get into the sign-in page. You're going to put in your unique ID and password and click Enter. It will deliver you to the welcome homepage or landing page. And it has, as you can see on this example, pending job controls. It's a message board. What we have found in our brief use of the system is we don't want you to rely on that bulletin, because we're finding some people say, I clicked in there and it says I have no job controls. There's no numbers. You have 0. You really do. It's just not always expressing itself. So please always, your next click is to hit that Jobs tab. You click the Jobs tab, and I guarantee you, if you have job controls, you're going to see them. For example, this hiring supervisor happened to have 3 job controls, because it could very well be you'll have multiple recruits going on. In this table, you can say, oh, yep, I have 3 recruits going on. There are my job control numbers. Here is the code. Here's when the action occurred. The one thing we want to point out to you on this table is each column has a drop-down box, so you can sort it the way you wish. What we're finding with ECOS is it puts the newest job control at the bottom of your list. So if you want to flip it, you can sort it by another date to get your most recent job controls at the top. Now initially when you only have 1 or 2 job controls, you're not going to care. But after a year or two, and you might have 10, you might want to flip it so it's easier to see your most recent job controls. Now, once you select your job control, in this case we picked the first one, Job Control 93, you're going to be delivered to the Job Control record page. And this is that page that just helps you see, oh yep, Job Control 93, oh that's right, Staff Service Analyst in Sacramento, got it, I'm in the right job control. What do you do next? You're going to look towards the right to the quick link box, and you will see one of the selections is Job Applications, which is what we're in the business as a hiring supervisor to look at. So you're going to click Job Applications. And now you see this really super cool layout of everyone who came to your party. So you're going to see a table, and you're going to get real familiar saying, how many pages do I have? Because you're going to learn that there's 10 applicants per page. And you're going to say, fabulous, I have more than 5 pages. Hit the arrow and you'll see maybe you had 11 pages. And there'll be 10 per page with the exception of the last page. The last page may have 1 or 2, depends. The other thing I want to point out to you on this landing page, besides you're all excited because people have applied for your position, is that there are 2 columns we're getting a lot of questions on. The first column is called HR status. In the future, and in a perfect world, because the ECOS electronic application process is now married into the ECOS examination system, it can identify a profile and say, oh, yes, this person's on the SSA list. And yes, they're eligible and reachable. We're finding it's not quite reliable yet for a few reasons. Depending on when the system pulled the information, and with all the online exams that happen now, they might be eligible today, but when they submitted it, they weren't. The other issue is because of Rule 250, they may have taken the exam, passed in the top 3 ranks, but they were not really qualified to take the exam in the first place. So please do not rely on that at this time. We see great potential in the future for it, just not quite here yet. The next column, which is reachable, you'll start to see some comments in there like on cert, yes, no, not applicable. Once again, please ignore those messages. They are not reliable. Then you'll see an empty column called last hiring action. When we release modules 3 to 5, that's going to start having script in there that you put in based on your action with those applicants. But we're not touching it yet, just letting you know why it's there. The other thing I want to point out to you on this landing page is there are 2 active links for each applicant. On the left is App Detail. On the far right is View App. We are living right now in Module 1 and 2 in View App. So if you want to see someone's application, you're going to go to the right column and click on View App. If the application does not have a phone number or contact information on it, you may elect to go to the far left, App Detail, because it does have some of their profile information in it, including contact phone numbers. And what we're finding is some of our more advanced users are saying, why would I put my information in twice? It's in my profile. I'm going to save a few keystrokes and not put it in my electronic app. So we're showing you that you can go into App Detail to find some of their profile information, some of which is the phone number. So when we look at app detail, and I did redact this, you'll be able to see each applicant's, it'll say the job control number, it'll say their status, list eligibility claimed, and then down here on applicant information, they're going to say, what's your preference contact? And it'll have some phone numbers there. So if you're looking for someone's contact information after you've done your screening matrix and this is the person you want to contact, and their contact information may not be on the electronic app, this is where you're going to find it. And that's where we'd like you to stop. We will be spending a lot of time as hiring supervisors in app detail when we launch modules 3 to 5. Because this is where, under hiring actions, we will be having separate training classes for supervisors on how to process through the system electronically to say, here are the people I want to check eligibility on, here are the people I want to advance to an interview, here is my selected candidate that I'd like to appoint. We're just not ready to roll out those modules today. But you'll become very familiar with that section in the near future. So let's go back to that landing page for your job application, because what you're going to do after you're all excited and see how many apps you have, you're going to start opening up the applications to say, I got a lot of people. Are they people that I want to bring in and consider for an interview? So let's take a look at what will happen when you click on Select for View App. You're going to see that individual's electronic profile application. And it's going to give you some choices. The first choice is always going to be the checklist. You don't care about the checklist. The checklist is a tool for your applicant. When I spoke earlier about building an intelligent job control, if you tell us that a statement of qualification is required, we code it a certain way so it populates on the applicant's checklist. All checklists say you have to have a state app. But if you want something else as a requirement to be considered for the job, you let us know in your 375 that that's a requirement. It'll populate on the checklist and they know what they have to submit. Quick commercial on that the application checklist. Initially we were told that if you had a requirement on your checklist and if an applicant didn't upload that document, they couldn't advance. Kind of like other internet websites where they give you a red asterisk and say, whoa, you can't go any further, you missed something. But then when it was actually rolled out, what happened instead was they're going to get a warning, you missed it, but they're allowed to proceed. Probably because we didn't want to have a chilling effect on any applicants. But that just means you may have some applicants who come in who are missing a required document. Then you're going to see some additional live links, the blue live links. The first will be the state application. And then there'll be any other documents that they uploaded. Please treat all the documents on electronic application the same way you've always done with hard copies. If they have a cover letter, read the cover letter. If they add a resume, read the resume. Okay, so what might an electronic application look like? Well, reassuringly, it looks just like the hard copy. Nothing new that you need to learn or worry about. The nice thing about ECOS and the electronic application is the system will not allow the Social Security number. The other thing I'd like you to know is that it does not have a wet signature. Because ECOS authenticates each user through their profile and their own secure password, the system has authenticated this user. You do not have to obtain a wet signature. You've always been told, or should have been told, that if in a hard copy world someone's turned an app in and forgot to sign it, and they happen to be the one you invite to an interview, you've always been told, slide that across the table, ask them to sign it. Why is that important? Because the text that few people read right above the signature says that I am certifying to the best of my knowledge that all the information I provided you is true and correct. If I say I have a 4-year degree, I have a 4-year degree. If I say I worked full-time at this job, they worked full-time and not part-time. Because hard copy applications are still being accepted, when you get a hard copy application, if that is someone you want to consider for the hiring panel or for your hiring interview, please get their wet signature. That hasn't changed. We need them to certify they're the ones that mailed it in and not a relative. The other commercial I want to give you is we have a lot of people asking, oh my goodness, do I now have to print off all these electronic applications? You don't. We're trying to go paperless. It's actually a very genuine effort to go paperless. So I'm using a sample. Think about when you shop online. Let's think about Amazon. And let's say you want to buy a jacket. So you're going to look at screens and screens and screens of jackets. And then you're going to look at the jackets into the right size, make, color, cost. Now you're more interested in that specific jacket. That's probably the one you're going to print off so you can look at it, remind yourself you ordered it, whatever you want to do. So similarly, with this, you're going to look at these electronic apps, open them, screen them against your screening criteria. And the ones that you say, wow, these are my top candidates, print those off. Scrutinize those again if you wish. You'll need to print them off so that they're going to be presented in front of the panel members anyway. But you don't need to print them all off. If you do print them off and then decide that's not someone you're going to invite to the interview, you don't have to retain that in your hiring supervisor file because the ECOS is your hiring supervisor file. Just confidentially destroy them. Because if the auditors come through, I have a copy of all those apps in the system. Okay? Then what happens? After you've looked at all those electronic apps and you screen them through your screening criteria and you're ready to say, here's someone I want to invite to the interview, are they eligible? Now you're going to go back to the basics. You're going to go back to what we've always had in this department. You're going to submit a 412 to request an eligibility check. We will conduct that eligibility check for you. We will respond and let you know who's reachable and eligible. And then you will do your standard interview process and then notify us with the pink of your selected applicant. When we roll out modules 3 to 5, these will be electronic also. I want to give you a commercial about contact letters. Sometimes when we change a system, users are much more aware of different processes and sometimes believe they're new. Contact letters are not new. Contact letters have been with us always, and they're still with us with ECOS. Why do we send out contact letters? Contact letters are required if when we pull your certification or eligibility list of people on that exam, we must send them out to people who are on reemployment. Their names are at the top before rank 1. We also must send them to anyone who is on SROA, State Restriction of Appointment, /surplus, must. Why? Because if you're on the reemployment list, that meant that your department had a layoff and you lost your job. So the state is one employer, and we will endeavor to do our best to get our fellow state employees back onto our payroll system. They have hiring priority. The same for SROA surplus. They're at risk of losing their job right now. So we try to give them we give them hiring priority to ensure that they can also find a safe position so that they don't end up on reemployment. Reemployment can also contain the names of people who are still current state employees, but they were demoted in lieu of layoff. So if you're demoted in lieu of being laid off, you get to be on a reemployment for the class you had previously. Again, we try to make our fellow employees whole. Additionally, we are legally required to send out at least 50 Limited Examination and Appointment Program, or LEAP, contact letters. They do not have hiring priority. We send them out because the state is doing its best to attract disabled people into our workforce. So it's a way to notice them specifically, so if they don't see your job announcement, we gave them a personal invitation to their home. Now, if you have a difficult to recruit classification, you can also instruct us to send out contact letters. And we'll send them out to people who are on that eligibility list for that classification and hopefully encourage more participants to come to and respond to your vacant position. Contact letter applications are received directly into Human Resources because we control those documents and make sure they really do have an opportunity to be given hiring priority and brought to the attention of the supervisor. In ECOS, if they respond directly to you, there are people who will put on their electronic application, even if we sent them a contact letter, they'll still send an app in through the ECOS system. And in explanations, they may put reemployment. Now you know that person's saying they have hiring priority. If they're on SROA, they'll have their SROA letter uploaded so you can see it. So if they don't come through us through hard copy and they come through ECOS, I'll assure you the HR will see it because we have to look at every ECOS app as we do every hard copy app. But additionally, for you as a supervisor, just understand they go to the top of your matrix. Some supervisors have the mistaken impression that if I have someone who applies either reemployment or SROA and I look at them against my screening matrix and they're low, well, I don't need to consider them. They have hiring priority. They don't have to meet your screening matrix. They have hiring priority. They lost their job. They lost money. They're at risk of losing money. They have hiring priority. Now, if you believe this person who has applied is woefully deficient and will be set up for failure and not pass probation, call HR and we'll talk about it. There is a process to request an exemption from Cal HR, but I can promise you, if we do not have a compelling argument, you will not be allowed to exempt that person from your process. So it's serious business. Then I want to give you one more brief commercial, and that's about the hiring process in its totality, in its cycle. I have found over time, many departments, they handle hiring applications far more casually than they handle examination applications. We all know exams are highly confidential. You have to sign a release saying, I'm not going to share the questions. You can't make copies of what's in there. You can't go back to your desk and write them so you can remember them for next time. Very confidential. For some reason, hard copy applications for a job opportunity is more like, oh, I left them on that counter, or I'm going to share it with a couple people. We're going to kind of talk about it. And they may not have a business need to know. So what I want to share with you is the exam cycle begins when you take an exam. Highly confidential, right? Once you're on an exam list, that gives you the path to apply for that job. When you apply for the job, you go through a merit-based screening matrix. See if you have the right qualifications. That's confidential. Then you go into a hiring interview if you're selected. Those questions are confidential. So are your notes and the scores. If you're the selected candidate, you're going to serve a probation. You're going to get 3 probation reports. Those are confidential too. It is not until you pass probation that you have completed the examination cycle. Okay? So that means that whole process should be managed by our supervisors with discretion. And do understand when I say confidential, there are times when we do have to share documents even though they're confidential. If there's certain reasons for us to interact, if there's a merit complaint, for example, then we will, or if an out-of-class claim comes in, we'll look at all those documents. But I just want you to have an understanding that ECOS, just because they're hiring applications, doesn't make them less sensitive or less confidential than an exam application. So how can we help you? We know when you actually drive it the first time, you may have questions. We're managing the questions through this email box. So if you have a question or a concern or a comment, please send it to this email box, and then one of the exam team will assist you. I do want to reiterate that right now for Module 1 and 2, the work is 1, tell us how you want us to build the job control, what's required, what language do you want in it, who's the hiring supervisor versus the person you want to receive questions from the public. Then you're going to go in with your user ID and password, click 1. Then you're going to select your job control, click 2. Then you're going to go across that screen and click on job applications, that's click 3. Then you're going to see all your apps. And then you'll click each app and look at it and look at the documents that they've provided you. It's as simple as that. Okay? So this first part, when we're exposing and teaching people, we stopped it at the easiest piece so everyone could get exposed to it and how it works. We're also working to get more and more supervisors access to ECOS because it is a process and people are missing emails or slow to respond to the emails. And when that happens, we still have your job controls waiting for you. And if it takes you a week to give us back your emails so we can get you system access, your apps are a week old. We're on some that are 2 weeks old. So we're going to get ahead of it and start working with our division HR liaisons to identify hiring supervisors who we expect will be very active on recruitment issues in this current and next fiscal year, and we're going to get them in the system. Because our goal is to get you those apps as soon as we can and for you to be available to go in and start looking at them as soon as you can. Okay? So on behalf of the Human Resources Services branch, I want to thank all of you for coming to this presentation. I want to assure you that we're developing a toolkit where this webinar, the screenshots, frequently asked questions, tips and tricks are all being prepared. So you'll see a HRML go out in the near future that explains how you can find all those resources. And then of course we're a resource also, should you choose to send us an email to our assigned box. So again, thank you very much for your participation.